the importance of continence or celibacy in yoga or life in general. So the culture is towards freedom for people to engage in relationships freely at their will, because everyone should be free and not be restricted, and people are not slaves. And in the old days, or even in the current days, those, so why say old days, right? In certain people who follow the traditional practices of the very intelligent sciences, for example, Vedanta, Siddhanta, and even religious practices as well recommend this, as well, that you should observe continence or celibacy. They don't just say celibacy; it's like a very hard word and a crude word, right? To do this. So I'll discuss this point in this video. And if you like the contents of my discussions and in my video, I'd like to ask you a great favor. Please also remember to like and subscribe, and do not forget to also share my videos to your social medias, because this will greatly help me reach a wider audience. And I believe, these are some topics that are important to people in general. And for those who don't know me, I am Osman. I'm a bioenergy healer on a master level with telepathic healing capabilities, specializing in critical care recovery and terminal illnesses, amongst a host of other physiological, psychological, and even spiritual ailments, especially alleviating the adverse effects of involuntary Kundalini awakening. I'm also an advanced level yoga and meditation teacher, having been practiced this art for almost 50 years and teaching for 44 years. And in that period, I studied under various masters from different schools of thought, not only from the yogic sciences, from other schools and cultures, in the spirituality field. And I gleaned out the more important essence from all this teaching, creating my own unique protocols gathered from these lessons to create a shorter, quicker, more effective methodology adapted for the 21st century. Because people want things, that are more effective, faster, and quicker and easier, removing the unnecessary frills. Because the time is a very important factor and an expensive factor these days, right? And a very limited factor. And to that end, I now have students in over 100 countries. And my favorite protocol is my 5-minute yoga and meditation program, which you can download for free by visiting my website, yogawellness786.com, in exchange for subscribing to my protocol. And you can also gather more information about my services at my website. Please also remember, my therapies are all natural based and not a replacement for a medical treatment. So coming back to, I like to use the word continence. Continence uh, is a better word because to my understanding, it depicts the sensation of having restraint, not forcefully withholding yourself unnaturally, but restraining yourself from uh, dissipating your energies helter skelter wherever you feel like, right? And restraining it to a special person within a monogamous relationship, right? Preferably a marriage relationship, right? But of course, these days marriage is like almost impossible and very difficult, and I'm not surprised because of what I'm about to explain why this is so, when it comes to the importance of it. So I'll give you the perspective from a yoga sciences perspective, that when one engages in intimacy, right, in a relationship, physical intimacy, there is a astral or a psychic connection that is visible with the third eye. If you fully develop the third eye, you can also see not only the physical world but the energetic world that's surrounding, the energy that's surrounding everything, because everything has got energy in it. Every atom, two atoms can't stick together if there's no energy binding it together, right? So everything, you can also see the energy, right? So this intimacy creates an energetic connection, which if you, for example, only had once off, one night you was drunk and it was a mistake and you want to delete it and forget it, but the astral connection is there, and it will take 12 years for it to completely dissolve. So it doesn't just go away overnight. You can't forget it, and what that connection does is it connects you spiritually and psychologically, means psychologically, to that person. So all the stresses and traumas of that person adds to your stresses and traumas, right? So it intermingles her mixed up thoughts and your mixed up, or his mixed up thoughts and your mixed up thoughts, or whatever the genders is, whatever you want to choose, intermingling, right? And it's now you stress. Everyone complains of having stress. You're doubling it, right, by adding that person. And you not only connected to that, but you're connecting to every person that person is connected to, depend on that person's number, right? Now it's a fashionable term, what's your number, depicting how many physically intimate relationships you have. And so some people are very proud, my number is around the hundreds, or it's 50, or it's like people with a lower number tend to be more conservative, more together, generally not so stressed out, and as those with the higher numbers, right? People with higher numbers are more like erratic thoughts and compulsive, right? Seem to be energetic, right? But always moving, because the mind is on high speed. Why? We don't know how many thousands of people's thoughts are going through his head, because of the multiple network of connections, because you become a massive network. You're connected to the one person who's connected to another 50 person, and each one of those are connected to 50, and some to 100 and 1,000, some people, right? And the other people is connected here, so it's become massive, unlimited, infinite network. Is there a surprise that stress, anxiety, depression that you cannot control? There was a suicide note written by a journalist. She wrote a note before jumping off a building. She said, "No, do not blame anyone. There's no one to blame for this thing. It's my own mind that turned against me." It's not her mind, it was the mind that was filled with so much of clutter. So maybe you are having just a simple monogamous relationship, right? You just decide you want to have a relationship with one person. That one person secretly had two other relationships you do not know about, right? Or you just, this is your first relationship, right, with that person. Say, okay, I'm monogamous. That person had just with two other people, right? That two other people had maybe with 50 other people, and that 50 other people with maybe altogether 1,000. That network is already affecting you, saying monogamous relationship, right? So when they in the married, they'll search for, they make sure that the person was, you have a white wedding. The woman was traditionally allowed to only wear a white dress if she was a virgin. If she was not a virgin, you don't wear a white dress. So this was for people who married widows or divorced people, right? So there was no crime against marrying a divorced woman. And usually they didn't want to encourage divorce, because divorce usually meant that the woman is going to be usually left alone, and maybe a lot of people not going to marry her, because they all wanted to marry someone who doesn't have baggage, doesn't have children, or didn't come out of a previous relationship, and they were looking for someone who's more pure, in those days, right? Now no one cares about that. So in order to protect the sanctity of the relationship and not leave a, because she's already had intimacy experience, and you open Pandora's box, and the person is, no one wants to marry her, and she's alone and single, maybe a single parent. There's biological needs, right? That is overpowering. It's overpowering. You cannot blame the person to want to engage in a relationship, and if someone approaches her, she's goes into it, and maybe it's going to be another married person, creating a decline in the morality of society, that way, right? So I know I'm going to get a lot of adverse comments regarding it. Just go with me. I'm talking from the olden days perspective. I understand that is not the case now, right? I fully understand that. So what actually happens is, you engage in so many, you create, your mindset is gone. It's no longer your own mind. You have a combination of thousands of minds in your mind that's disturbing you. So you can't, you know, be very stable in anything, right? You become like master of jack of all trades but master of none. Like you jump from job to job, relationship to relationship. You can't find the right person, and 60% of the world is single. Are you surprised? Are 60% of the world virgins? No. It's like to find a virgin is like it used to be finding a needle in a haystack, but I think now easier to find a needle in a haystack than to find a virgin, right? So virginity is not a common thing anymore. So is it surprising people can't get into a relationship? They are not stable. They can't be stable and they can't adjust and adapt to that person and be calm enough. And they just snap. And I don't need to take this and get lost. And you walk out the door. Don't turn back in. And I'm not talking like Mr. Innocent myself. I myself am from a Western style of upbringing and believed in freedom, grew up that way. And although I was trained in yoga sciences and the importance of it, but I felt I should be free. That was the olden days. They don't know what they're talking about. And the power of, especially where society is free and it's easy to have, free intermingling and relationships with people, and intimacy with people is like very easy, especially in Western countries, right? And this was easy for me. And my ideology behind it is I did not want to settle down in marriage until I satisfied myself of playing the field, and I didn't want after marriage to then look elsewhere. I want to know that now this is really the right person. After experiencing so many relationships, now I know what I really want, and I'm not really hungry for something out there because I had everything. I'm not missing out on anything. So I didn't want to be unfaithful when I was ready to get married. And that philosophy is a broken philosophy. So I'm also talking from my perspective that I did the wrong myself, right? And let me give you my example, right? My classic example, I'm now 56 years old with 6 divorces. So if I tell anyone I'm divorced 6 times, automatically they're going to say generally, so I would say, I hope you don't get offended. I'm going to say, this is what they tell me, that the problem is actually with you. I never believed it was with me, but after 6 divorces, I had to think about it, and I always justify each, situation. But when I think about it now, I was too quick and too hasty, to come out. First problem come, I don't need this problem anymore. I don't need to live with this. I need my peace of mind. And there's, 4.2 billion women or 4.2 billion men for those who are women, right? Or whatever your choice is, right? I'm not discriminating in your choices. You're free to choose what you want, right? And there's billions. I can't make one person my God, right? I used to talk like that, and they have. And I say, why? If you're unhappy, let's just break away. Better to be, happier apart. And in these days, with so much of trauma, if there's going to be so much trauma in a relationship, don't be in the relationship. Don't kill yourselves, right? Don't go to. But that is a wrong attitude. Go to every possible counseling and fix the problem, because you should have thought of all that before coming together. There was some common ground that made you come together, right? Find that common ground again, and find a therapist who can work through the differences and create some type of boundaries and middle grounds, right? And respect for what is each other's space, and what should be compromised, and where you can find some common ground, to be able to go through it and work through it. I promise you, more than 80% of the relationships that are breaking up can be salvaged if following the right protocols, right? And the reason there's so much of confusion in the head is because people don't want to say, Western science is now the god of all sciences. It claims, it's not claiming, but it's talking in a way that it's as though it's the only science on the planet, right? It's just a very small science, a very small percentage of the cultures of the world. There's so many other cultures and so many other sciences, right? But it talks like that. It must be provable, it must be empirical evidence is our rule of thumb, our barometer to be able to measure right? And we are now the creating the rule that if it doesn't follow this barometer, it is not accepted, and everyone now must follow that thing. Nonsense, this is not the only the thing. There is the spiritual sciences, and now Western science, which is just one minuscule science compared to so many other very big sciences, bigger than the Western sciences, right? And more in depth, and with a longer history, and more detailed, and more evolved, I would say, right? From me studying wide cultures, including the Western science cultures, I'm not putting it down. There is some, merits, to everything. And even in all my videos, I always say it's my treatments are not a replacement for medical therapy, meaning Western science medical therapy, right? Because it is a good, a measure, safety measure, to adopt as well. But it's your choice, right? How? Because there will always, before you go for a spine operation, you have to sign a disclaimer, and they don't let many very often they don't tell you what's written in the fine print, that if you come out of the operating theater, paralyzed, you do not have a right to sue them, at the slip of the knife or whatever it is, that maybe the doctor was very tired, very exhausted. If you did a detailed search, research and investigation as to if you came out paralyzed, as to the restfulness or the state of mind of the person who's conducting the procedure, you might have found that he was hardly sleeping, and is only at best having 2 to 3 hours or 4 hours of sleep a day on average, and probably was doing, was on call for 24 or 48 hours, and just came out of a 13 hours of surgeries before he, cut you open. And is it a surprise that there was a slip of the knife and cut a nerve that created permanent paralysis? So they cut all that out, right? When you're signing the indemnity, so you have to make your choices carefully. A very close friend of mine, he trusted fully. Yes, we're not saying disrespect, respect everything, but make the decision yourself, by getting second and third opinions, especially when it comes to important procedures, right? There are other medical, you don't have to go to other cultures within the same culture, right? You can have three doctors' opinions or two or three doctors' opinions, with the from different, opinions and point of view, what they feel. Maybe it's not, it's good. They're going to be a safer, easier pathway, right, for you. And what are the risks that are not not deliberately, but it's not mentioned, that needed to be mentioned, or may have slipped, the one person's this thing, right? So you need to, follow these things. So this is about Western science, right? There is, benefits and loopholes to everything. There's positives and negatives to everything. Everything in life has got a positive side and a negative side to it. There's no one thing that is, the end all and have all, right? There isn't one pure investment strategy that's guaranteed to bring about, massive returns. Everything has a risk, attached to it. Similarly, in relationships, there is these astral pathways that are there. If the third eye phenomenon is something that can be developed, and people have developed it, and you can observe that, because Western science can't measure it, they, rule it out as not acceptable scientifically, right? But that is wrong. Even the science itself doesn't know its other departments, the department of quantum physics. I don't know how come the medical department don't have a conversation with the quantum physics department. They just need to open the door in the university, to the neighbor. The neighbor is the professor of physics. Have a chat with him. Then you won't say this thing is not there, because physics has proven the existence of the quantum field, right? So this is part of the quantum field. When you engage in relationships, this thing, connects you, and this is the danger of it. And I'm suffering that consequences. So of course, the next relationship I get into, um, uh, uh, I'm going to take the assistance upfront of a therapist, right? And we're going to make sure that we go there at least every fortnight or at least once a month, right, for a checkup. In the beginning stage, at least for the first six. But I think for the first 6 months is the first thing we should at least go weekly or fortnightly, and then monthly after that, up to 2 years, and then after 2 years, like every 3 months, you know, revisit for my benefit, right? Because I can't, because the fault is in me. Similarly, it took me so long, it took me 56 years to realize that it's my fault. And what was the reason? Yes, I know the theory behind it. And I didn't put two and two together because I didn't want to think that way, right? But now it's making sense, right? So this is the importance of continence. So from a yoga meditation point of view, you're trying to still the mind, you want to achieve silence, you're trying to bring your mind, like the most popular method is mindfulness, focusing on the breath, and your mind keeps going, and jumping everywhere. Why is jumping? Because there's so much in your head, right? You got millions of people in your head. You are networked probably with the whole planet now, because as people are sleeping around so much. I'm sure through your network you've slept with every person, in the third degree or the fourth degree, and I'm sure by the third degree you're connected to a billion people, right? It may or may not be an exaggeration, but I mean I've traveled, 100 countries. Did I have relationships with other nationalities? Of course, right? I'm connected to the planet, right? And so, fortunately, I have mindfulness and I have meditation and pranayama practice that can help to relieve it, right, and reduce its effect and try to wear it off. But there is the 12-year protocol that we can't deny. Once you connect, you're connected, right? For 12 years to that person and that person's international network as well, right? If it's an international network. So in order to progress faster through through the meditation sciences, and to have a more relaxed state of mind, more centered, more focused, more stable, less prone to anxiety, stress, and depression, it is encouraged for continence. And there is certain, if you want to go to advanced levels of meditation, you need to observe temporary celibacy. It seems to be a safety guard, because when you go into the advanced levels of meditation, you kind of go crazy, right? Because you become so deeply immersed in that bliss, you can't even worry about whether you're wearing clothes or not. You don't care anymore. You don't care. These are this constructs. You don't care what is, social etiquette and so forth. You abandon all that. You don't care what is the house, what is the job, what's the need for working, what's the need for earning an income. The birds and the worms getting food every day. Why wouldn't you get food every day? Just walk the streets, be homeless and be free. You go crazy like this in the advanced stages of meditation, because you're so filled with bliss. It is not possible for you to be able to go to work and carry out your duties and be responsible parent. Not possible, I say, I repeat, not possible when you are in samadhi state and permanently on the high level of consciousness. It's not possible. Those that claim to be, they're not yet on that high level, right? It's not possible to be, because you're not going to be this thing. You're going to be a very different, you're going to be a very dysfunctional member of society, and you're going to be talking weird and freaky. So even my videos, I try to keep it contemporary, but it's like freaky subjects, right? What I'm talking about, in a certain way, right? If you have to look at it really, is this common conversation what I'm talking about? Is it commonly to hear the type of thing that I'm discussing in my video? Do you commonly hear this in conversation among people? No, right? So it's a freaky subject, right? So because I'm involved in it so much, and always in meditation, when the bliss becomes like overload, I can't even meditate long because it becomes overpowering, and I stop it, and I just do hatha yoga practice and breathwork practice and try to stay it. And that's why I'm trying to create, I was waiting to create an ideal situation when I could afford to have a good studio and professional people videoing me and creating the videos in a very professional manner. But I'm afraid that I might, I might pass the point of no return, in terms of this thing, and maybe I will not care to give all this information. So while it's still possible for me to give it, because then I will want to keep it a secret and go into silence and maybe not talk anymore, and to remain blissed in myself, and it's then so much of secret that I uncovered, I want it to be uncovered to the people, right? So the importance of, so I go round and round in my topics and jumping from subject to subject, because when you start opening up the higher parts of your brain does not think in a linear manner anywhere. We are taught and conditioned to think in a linear manner, but the real way of thinking, it thinks mind mapping. It thinks of 1,000 things at the same time, 1,000 possibilities. I jump from this example, that example, this example, this example. Sometimes when I listen to my videos, I see there's many missing words and I just skip because the word was in my mind, but it went so fast through my mind, I thought I said it. And I skipped a few explanatory words and I just say some phrases or jump into a next part of the sentence, skipping a few words in between as well. Right? So already I'm becoming dysfunctional. So before I become totally dysfunctional, I wanted to, give out this information. So it is very important. Think about it deeply. It's not we're trying to send you to the dark ages and make you nuns and monks and all that. No, do it in a prescribed manner. And then when you are ready, if you're in a relationship, control it slowly. So if it becomes overpowering, when you engage in intimacy, it slows down, right? Physically. So if you're in a marriage situation and you decide now I'm married for so long and we are tired of each other as well, we've got adult children and we want to take a break, like to explore our the inner world, do the inner engineering, right? So both are agreeing to it and both are, going into it. And you start, take, say, let's do this for 3 months or 90 days, or, we're going to do it just for a month or 6 months, or we're going to just do it for, maybe a year or 2 years, right? We're going to go into this observance. And it can go to various by agreement and both parties practicing together and mutually and not breaking your relationships and so forth. And then when it's becoming overpowering and so forth, soon as you engage in intimacy, it acts like a damper and it brings you down. It keeps you in the little bit in the sane world, not fully in the sane world. So I believe I'm not fully in the normal state of mind of people, but because I've had the taste of so much of the other side, of the quantum side, not others. I don't want to say the other side, like to sound, spooky, hocus pocus, airy fairy. Not that. It's of, quantum or mystical experiences, right? So I have too many, mystical experiences and so forth because it was my passion of study, field of study and passion to decrypt all the secrecy in this field, which I've done a great job in decrypting a lot, and that's how I created my own unique, simplified protocols and able to bring these videos. And I mean, I think I checked last night. In just the last 6 or 7 weeks, I created 277 videos that are uploaded. Right. So I think that's the thing, and I'm creating an average of around 5 videos per day consistently, and I believe I can continue this ad infinitum because I'm known that I can talk. I've once spoken for 72 hours non-stop. We were doing long distance. I was with a friend with a long distance business, and the conversation was so interesting that we did one trip it was a long distance trip. It was a delivery at a courier company, and he had to do a long distance delivery, and it took 36 hours to complete. And we were so charged up with the conversation. He said, shall we do it? Because we got a call for an emergency run again. He was feeling wide awake and energized. So let's do it again. And we did it again. And I spoke nonstop. And the reason he took me on the trip is because he can stay awake, because I can engage in conversation and, keep him going, So, and of course, I'm also was a licensed driver at that time. Now, for the last 2.5 years, I'm completely blind. So they just refused to give my license. I said there is the Tesla self-drive. They're not listening to me. The licensing department not listening. I said make a special provision just for the Tesla taxi cab, right? The self-drive. They're not agreeing to give my license, but they're agreeing to give my firearm license because there is a protocol for blind people, right? But not the driver's license. And not that's stepping, one step high. But I think they'll come around, right? As Tesla becomes more and more popular and self-driving vehicles become more popular. Just give it another. We don't have to wait 10, 20 years because technology is advancing at such a fast rate. Probably in the next year or two, right? It will come around. So I'll wait for that time. So coming back to the subject of continence and celibacy, not only for meditation sign, but also for your normal life, right? So I think I've explained it in both ways, and also when you're observing strict celibacy, you can reach the quantum levels easily. The high advanced quantum level. You can reach quantum levels in normal relationships, an amazing experience and experience energy and light and experience some blissfulness and all that. You can experience all that having normal marriage relationships, right? And I'm just using the word marriage, or monogamous, because maybe you don't believe in that term. You don't need a piece of paper. And I found that to be true, because people who were in very long relationships, 10 years they were living. It's very common to find the story. They were 10 years living together, and they eventually, okay, let's formalize it. Within 6 months, they got divorced after formalizing it. Right? Something the paper did that it broke it, right? And of course, the religious leaders says, no, because you were living in sin for 10 years, Satan was allowing and leaving you in peace to live in it. But after you formalized it, now Satan want to break it up because you made Satan angry, right? So it's a funny story, right? I heard, and that is really laughable, right? So it's something probably due to, psychology, that you feel you own the person. So when you are living openly, the person is always free to walk out, right? But once you tie the person, in a contract, and where you're sharing assets and so forth, you found that maybe you own the man or you own the woman, right? And then the way in which you communicate with that which you own, then that which is lent to you. Something, I mean, this amazing bicycle, for example, and who rides bicycle these days? This amazing VR, game, with the latest technologies that even evokes the emotions in you. It's a very expensive system, was lent to you, right? You're going to treat it so, because any day the person, you said, no, I'll come back, I'm just going on, I'm going to be busy for a few days. As soon as I'm free, I'm going to come and take it back from you, so you can use it so long. So you're afraid, you're going to lose it, so you treat it so nice and try to make maximum best use. Once you're owning it, it's yours forever. You just throw it around, won't treat it with the same care. It's the same psychology with a marriage certificate and living, without a paper. You have more respect for the person, because the person free, you can walk out anytime, nothing to lose. Nothing to lose, right? And you keep your boundaries from a financial perspective, where you keep each other's, independent homes at all times, right? And you can agree, you can live few days here and that person live few days in that home. But anytime you want to split up, it must be possible to split up. That type of relationship, I think, will work, will last forever, hopefully. And if you put a therapist in between as a compulsory this thing, right? And don't just go, take time before you commit to a relationship, right? As well. And when we say take time, don't take 7 years, right? A friend of mine, 7 years waiting for a commitment. I like Steve Harvey's show, where he said it shouldn't take you more than 6 months. Minimum 3 months. Don't make a decision for commitment into a relationship in less than 3 months. And I like the backup to that opinion by Dr. Phil McGraw, who's a leading clinical psychologist. He's got his own TV show and took 13 years, of full-time study before his PhD was completed and so forth, and over 30 years of clinical practice, and of course, I don't know how many seasons of his successful television show. Said it's impossible. He used the word, it's impossible to know someone in less than 3 months, in less than 3 to 6 months, right? And when they say 3 to 6 months, means by 6 months, you don't need more to make a general. Of course, you don't know a person 100%. You can, be hiding a lot of, but within the six, you generally know more or less the person if you're with them and communicating with them and, spending time, regularly building the relationship, right? So even Steve obviously don't take more than 3 to 6 months to make the decision. Don't make the decision for commitment less than 3 months. And at the 6 month mark, you have a right to demand. So now either you're going to commit, you're going to marry me, or you're not going to marry. For those who are this thing, want a commitment of marriage, say at that 6 month point, make up your mind. So if you know, if you can't make up mind at the 6 month point, I'm walking out, and walk out, right? Walk out. That's what Steve Harvey's wife did for him, his current wife, right? I think it's his second wife. And at the 6 month mark, she just packed her bags and walked out. And he said, "What are you doing? Where are you going? I love you very much." "No, you're not." He said, "No, I'll marry you." And then he popped out the ring, right? And he married her. She demanded it at the sixth, and they still married, happily married, right? An amazing marriage, an amazing relationship, right? That he has, or that's how he portrays it, right? I mean, it looks like that, and they have, a merged, a family, because each one got children from each other's previous, marriages or relationships, and they're living together happily, right? So it doesn't mean we have to go back to the dark ages. Find a way to cut out. So it's not like you have to wait 12 years to cut out the ties. Every year it becomes lighter and lighter, right? You start getting your mind, like you'll be drawing it back, drawing. By the 12th year, you fully got back your mind, right? Uh, and providing, the other party also, has to be, genuine as well. So be patient with the other party, because they also have to clear their mind as well of their, baggage, from their previous relationships and the network of relationships as well. So this is the difficulties in the relationships. So you need to have patience, therapy, understanding, and not only for for meditation sciences, but also for normal life. So I hope that information helps you. Take care of yourself always.